So my name is Antz Simon. For those who don't know me, this is BMBC, so
they all know you, baby.
I know. So I'm an entrepreneur. I started my own company. It's called Solomon Troy Investments. We're a company that focuses primarily on property management, but also real estate acquisitions. I graduated with a degree in biology, but obviously that didn't work out. So I went another route. Found some passion in some different areas, and that's why I decided to start my own company.
Thank you, CEO. Hi, everyone. My name is Darnell, as you already know. I came to Massachusetts in 2013 as an international student. I started out at UMass Amherst, then completed my degree in finance at Bridgewater State University. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with finance. I just knew I loved numbers, and I liked investment, especially like I took an investing class, which I really liked, and then I ended up going to banking. I did that for about a year and a half, and then management at my bank changed, and then they started pushing sales on us. So nothing wrong with sales, but I just felt like that wasn't for me. I thought I could use my talents better. And so after I got married last year, a recruiter at Northeastern kept hitting me up. And so I found this amazing opportunity after we had negotiated to do a dual master's program where I'm getting an MBA and also a master's in accounting. And I think that will help me further down the road because I could see myself more as a CFO in a company, whether it's my own company or working for somebody else. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'll popcorn it to the First Lady.
Thank you. First of all, I feel humbled to be part of this call. I feel like I'm in the middle of greatness. Shout out to BMBC greatness right here. My name is Babette or Elizabeth. I've been at BMBC forever, so to introduce myself feels a little weird, but I will try. I went to college, undergrad at Northeastern University. At first, I wanted to go for as a teacher, but I found out that I couldn't major in education. So I quickly changed tracks and I majored in human services, what their version is of social work. So exactly, shout out to Huskies. And right after Northeastern, I went to grad school at Wheelock College now, which is part of BU, to get my MSW, my master's in social work. And I have been working as a social worker since officially since 2014. I did go to undergrad, mostly tuition free. And then I guess we'll talk about it later. I did end up getting loans. And then later on, I went to grad school and amassed a whole bunch of debt. And then I got married 5 years ago, which meant that we needed to get serious about our finances. And I'm the one that likes numbers more. So I'm the one that inherited all of our money thinking and planning. But that's me. I'll popcorn it to Vlad.
What an absolute pleasure to be among this august body with my man Mike, who's the genius here, and kudos to Antz, Darnell, and Babette. It's really an honor to be here with you guys. I'm Vlad, as you all know. I've been in the United States since 2002, believe it or not. And I've lived a number of different lives. I studied electrical engineering in undergrad, thinking that it would be a useful skill to put to the service of Haiti, but realized that I wasn't really cut out to be an engineer. I'd always had a passion for law, so engineering was more of an undergraduate degree that I needed to get to go to law school. So I did engineering, and it's helped me a lot in my legal career because it taught me to think logically. As you all know, I'm a talker by trade. I could talk anybody's ear off.
Oh,
That's
we know.
what I do.
We know.
So I chose a career that gave me the opportunity to talk people's heads off, and that's what I do. I've been in the legal field for the last 10 years now, first working as a corporate attorney and now working in-house for a pharmaceutical company for the last 5.5 years. And I like to say I picked the law really because I wanted to make a difference, but kind of fell into this career as a result of, say, the financial crisis. Long-term plans was to go to Haiti, and then realized based on the kind of the school choices I've made that there was no way I was going to go to a big law school, pay $60,000+ a year, and go work as a public interest lawyer. I would have been paying loans forever. So I kind of took the easy way out and kind of like not completely sold off my soul, but went to work for the big firm and going into the industry where, people manufacture products, medicines that help people seemed like a good route to actually help people. And so that's where I've landed and been there ever since. Got married, give or take 8 or so years ago. And 5 kids later. That's why you see me moving around no matter what I do. I can't get away from one of my kids. So I apologize for that. But, where finances came in was I graduated law school, got married, looked at my debt burden. Even while I was in law school, I was determined not to become a statistic. Didn't want to graduate with a 6-figure debt. I had to take some debt to go to law school and knew I was going to work to pay it off. And kind of started following a program because I learned, if you're saving money, but your debt burden, as in the interest you're paying on your loans, is much more than what you're kind of making in terms of saving. Well, you're kind of a leaky bucket. So spent a couple of years and really focused really hard on how I was going to get rid of my student loans. It was painful. It was an easy process, but like one by one kind of started knocking them out of the way. So happy to say that I don't have any student loans. I did it, so I know it's possible. And so, finances is not my strong suit, but kind of when you've handled money badly for a long period of time, you start thinking about, wait, am I going to spend the rest of my life working? And what if I lose my job? How am I going to survive? So those are the kinds of things that motivate me to think about finances. So I'll stop there.
I'd probably put it in some sort of index fund or like some ETF.
Well, hold on, bro. I don't even know what an index fund or an ETF is.
So it's basically just like
I don't even know what that is, man. You went.
So, yeah, no. So ETF it stands for exchange traded fund. It's basically like a group of companies in the stock market. They pool them all together and put money towards companies, basically, instead of like you can invest individually in companies, but if there's like a bunch of companies, kind of minimizes your risk a little bit because you're kind of evenly distributed. So with $1,000, it's not, I mean, real estate is my favorite thing, but like if it was $1,000, I'd definitely put it in the stock market just because I feel like it would be able to grow easiest that way. That makes sense.
But that's why Antz is the CEO.
I think he stole my idea. I was like, that's literally what I was gonna do too. Like, yeah, put it index because I think I'm in it for the long run.
Yeah.
And if I had, let's say if I had, a bill that I needed to pay right away, I would have used it. But if I don't need it, instead of leaving it in a savings account where it's just getting like nothing, I'd rather put it in an index fund. Or if I had to pick a stock, like a singular stock, it had to be a tech one. And I always go Microsoft or Apple.
Can you even buy Apple at $1,000? What is it now?
Yeah, Apple's at like 120. They always split. They always split the stock. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. Who's next?
I don't know. I'm in a different place in life.
That's good. That's beautiful. What would you do?
So I think it'd be a toss up between trying to continue build my emergency savings fund, or going towards a Roth, my Roth account. So that's one of the goals we have this year. So I don't know that I would do 50-50. It'd probably be all into my EF or all into the Roth account.
What's your Roth account, Babette?
Oh, a Roth.
That's a good question.
Yeah, a Roth is specifically a Roth IRA is a retirement account. Oh no, I'm in the presence of greatness. Okay, I'm gonna say my understanding of it in layman's terms, and you guys with the financial background can spruce it up. But from my understanding, a Roth IRA is a retirement account that grows tax free. So that means I can contribute up to $6,000 every year to that account after taxes. So your paycheck gets taxed every time you get paid. And so after I get taxed by the government, let's say my paycheck is $1,000, I can take 500 of those dollars, put it into my Roth IRA, and have that money grow and accumulate interest and all that stuff. I can invest that money as well. And then later on, when I retire, I can take that money out and not be taxed because I already paid money. I already paid tax on that money. That's my money.
You better drop that knowledge, yo. You better drop that knowledge, yo. Yeah, that's what's up. That's what's up. So because even your Roth can invest in the stock market. So that's technically, you would still choose investing or obviously up in your emergency fund. That's dope. That's what's up. All right, Mr. Vlad.
Since I'm a Christian, I would tithe my 10% of the $1,000 first, and then the 900 remaining dollars. No.
Yo, he got all of you. Wow, Pastor Vlad with the heat.
No.
So you would tithe, okay? You would tithe yeah, that's
no offense. I do think I do really think that these are all excellent ideas. Obviously, if there's a bill to be paid, I would probably pay it first with the remaining amount, but or I think it would, long term, $900 is great to drop into an ETF or Roth IRA. Depending on what's available at the moment, I might look into a certificate of deposit or a money market because it might give you a chance to make a quick. Some of them are maybe not now, but some of them were paying pretty decent amounts over like a 12-month period or an 18-month period. So it's not a bad way to drop $900 into an account. I mean, $900 might not get you a ton, but if the interest rate was right, 12 months might get me some money that I could then later invest into an ETF or something else.
all right.
I was just gonna ask the group, since Baba brought up the point about emergency savings, like having that emergency account. I know there's a lot of different opinions. Some people say 3 months, 6 months, based on your expenses. What are your goals as far as emergency savings goes?
That's a good question.
I mean, I think for me, that's a good question. Yeah, I think it depends on what you have, if you have assets or what investments you have. If it's just for Babette's situation, which is just her and her husband and her child, I think 6 months would probably make sense. I mean, obviously we've seen what happened with COVID, with a lot of landlords and things like that, when there was different things that the government did where people didn't have to necessarily pay their rent, but the landlords still have to pay their mortgages. So that taught us that you never know what can happen. So you know, in certain circumstances, you might want to have 12 months. So I think like I'm telling Bobette, I think 6 months would make sense for her, but someone like me, I think like I might do like a year, you know what I mean? Or you know, I think it's relative to your situation, and thinking about like how many, you know, assets, because I think it's kind of like risk management strategy. That's what, you know, you think about risk. So, you know, if you have other people, you know, I don't know. I think it's relative. It just kind of depends on your situation. So just to answer it directly, I think if we're talking about Bobette, 6 months makes sense. If we're talking about Antz, I'd probably put a year.
Yeah. A year.
Yeah.
Crazy. And so just to back up, right? Like, so when we're saying emergency fund, we mean like a fund to do what? Like, what's that for?
Like, just, you know, unexpected occurrences. Like, you know, like if you have a situation that just happened now, like where there's basically regulations put in place where people don't pay, you know, rent, and you still have a mortgage on it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But I think it looks different for different people. So Bobby can maybe speak to what an emergency.
Yeah, Bobby, what you got? What are you thinking?
So yeah, I've been trying to do to start small because our monthly expenses are pretty high. The goal is to get to 6 months, but right now, if I tell you what the 3 month goal is, y'all will be like, what? That's crazy. Fix it. But yeah, so it's currently a 3 month goal right now. And I think for me, what our emergency fund looks like is, and shout out to Mike for helping me with this last year, but covering all our deductibles, right? So if I get into a car accident, and my deductible is $500 or $1,000, I don't have to scratch my head worrying about that money because it's in my emergency fund already. Plus, however much my mortgage is or rent, plus my cell phone bill, plus you know, gas, average of gas and or other utilities, electricity, your cable. Something that, again, Mike, shout out to Mike, helped me think of, like, what about my health insurance deductible? If I were to needing to go to the emergency room and, you know, my copay is $100. At one point in my life, that $100 would have destroyed me. But because I now have an EF and my emergency fund like set up to, you know, if me, Alina, or Wilfred needs to go to the emergency room, like $100 is okay because I can pull it from my emergency fund. If there's a procedure that's not covered by insurance, I know that I can pull it from my emergency fund. So I think typically people think of the bills, like your rent, your car, your mortgage, like all of that stuff. But things like your deductibles should also count, or be a part of your EF too.
Obviously in a different position. I think for me, I totally agree with everything. This last year has been an exercise in looking where I can cut costs. So I was hearing about cell phone bills. I looked at my bill. You know, we're paying like $55 a month for a cell phone while I'm staying in the house 24 hours a day. So start thinking, well, you know, switching to a Mint plan, particularly when I'm not traveling, that cuts my cell phone bill to $20 a month is not a bad idea, because the reason I have this $55 bill is because I need unlimited internet and a phone plan that I can travel wherever while I'm not going anywhere. So doing things like that, try to cut down on debt so that, hey, you know, this car note that I have, if I need an emergency fund, do I really want to be worrying about paying some excessive fee or whatever it is, the monthly fee on my car note? So I think with 5 kids and a bigger family, you start, again, there's a buildup of an emergency fund, but I start thinking about unemployment insurance. If I were to lose my job, I start thinking about making sure I have a health savings account, so that if there are emergency bills that come from like health emergencies, like I had to run to the emergency department or something like that, that it, unlike similar to a Roth IRA, the money's growing in a tax sheltered account, but I can also use it to pay the deductibles, to pay those emergency fees, and my employer contributes to my health savings account. So it's kind of a win-win for me, where I pay into it, they pay into it. So the insurance pieces are there, doing all that. So for me, it's more, especially the other thing too, especially this being a particularly hot market for my industry right now, I'd probably be looking at like a 3 to 6 month runway and nothing too crazy, because kind of always constantly evaluating the market with the recognition that, hey, if I lost my job, I could possibly turn to unemployment, and also I can hop to another job on a pretty short notice, and also not trying to saddle having too much cash sitting in one area, particularly when I can't afford it. Unless you're, it's one thing, and remember, some of you may be living at home and your parents are still helping cover your costs. Maybe your only bill is your cell phone bill. You're not paying for food. You're not paying for anything. So if that's your case, certainly you could probably get by on $1,000. But once you have a mortgage, a lease, a car payment, rent, other bills you're paying, you just do the math, you add up the numbers, and your bill's probably gonna be a lot more than 1,000 in 1 month. So 1,000 is probably not gonna get you far.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, even when I was at home thinking about what my emergency fund would look like, I think these days, I think $1,000 would still be a lot, but thinking about like my cell phone bill, at some point I became responsible for my cell phone bill, even though I was home. And then having, like, my parents weren't gonna pay for Hulu, my parents weren't gonna pay for Netflix. And the world runs on Netflix right now, and Hulu, or whatever other streaming, Disney Plus. So if all of that is part of your monthly bills, monthly expenses, or Amazon Prime, I'm thinking about, that adds up pretty quickly. So $1,000 could be okay, but realistically you have to think about how long it would last you, given our current, I don't know, climate.
I'll jump in. My view is, so maybe coming from Haiti, it's a little different. Everyone here is kind of told to follow your dream and to do what you love and all that stuff, which is great. But if you remember the game Monopoly that we used to play way back in the days, there were different types of properties. You had your park places, New York avenues, and different areas. And what you realized is, with the properties closer to the starting line of the board, it's not like they weren't good, but in order to maximize your value from them, you needed to have houses and mansions on those properties. Whereas if you landed on Park Place, you were pretty much golden. You didn't need that many houses on it. And my analogy for that is kind of like, if your goal is to study psychology, for example, or to go into counseling, start thinking in terms of, when are you going to go get that PhD? What are you going to do with that? Because while the job itself is fulfilling, the pay is abysmal, right? And so, a bachelor's degree, just like we're saying $1,000 is not enough, back in our parents' time and other people's time, a bachelor's degree was worth something. Now it means you're qualified to work at McDonald's for the most part. And so think about high value. If what you want to study, what people may not realize is, and that doesn't necessarily mean going to college. Like, if I had a chance to do it over again, I might become an electrician or a plumber or a carpenter or something like that right now, because they graduate debt free and they're making money from day one as apprentices. And they have. What's that?
You just said, just to pause you right there, you just said that doesn't mean you need to go to college.
It doesn't. I mean, I think people think of college as the end all be all, but college sounds good, but it's not for everyone. And certain degrees you're going to get in college are going to be worthless, and you'll probably end up in debt land for quite some time. Whereas, if you're good at, electricity, plumbing, carpentry, or have certain manual skills that you like working outside, these jobs are in constant high demand and they pay extremely well. And they also allow you to build wealth early on because, you might become a master electrician by the time you're 22 or 25. You work 30 years, or you go work for the city, or you get a good union job. You could retire at 45 and go get another job and then retire 10 years later, collect pension from your first job, get a second job, retire from it. There are people collecting 3, 4, or 5 pensions and they're not even 50 yet, right? So all these factor into your thinking. Like, it sounds good to say, hey, I want to help people. That's great. But thinking long term about where you want to go, what you want to do. If I'm an engineer, maybe a bachelor's is good for me. If I want to go into psychology, maybe a PhD is what I need to get for me to start actually earning something. And then looking in terms of the field, who's hiring, what are they paying? So really, I had a mentor of mine saying, at some point you can't allow life to just happen to you. You really have to plan. You get to an age where things happening by accident is not very good. So you plan out your life in such a way, not to say that things are not going to go sideways, but you think about it long and hard and make decisions such that you can take that $1,000 and allow it to grow.
Yeah. Okay.
I think for me, like the $1,000, I think when you even talk about money, you have to talk about like a mindset. Yeah. So it's not really so much so how much money it is, it's like what you do with the money. And so there's like 2 different type of markets. Is like a labor market, which is kind of what Vlad is talking about, which is like being like an electrician or a plumber and et cetera. And there's like a capital market or investing side of the game. So it's like, if you have $1,000, because there's something also called inflation, which is basically like the value of your money, like your money losing value and the cost of things going up. So, put it as quickly as you get that $1,000, putting it into some sort of asset or some sort of tool to get it to grow, as opposed to just thinking, I gotta go and, obviously you need to have money. So, I mean, you gotta, at some point, unless you got handed money, you gotta work to some degree. But I think the mindset of what money actually is, how it works, how to optimize it, how to use it the best is more important than actually what, because you can have $1,000 and, plenty of studies will show you, if you know what to do with that $1,000, you'll beat off somebody else who's doing something different. So I think understanding what to do with the money is, or if not just as important as getting the money, maybe 50-50.
All right, so I'm gonna piggyback off that real quick, right? So this is why I know you, Antz. So like I already know you sound like a book called like Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? And I'm like, okay, this is the real estate guy. This is why I have you on. So how do you even change that mindset, right? Because like if I'm listening to you right now and I never read that book, or if I don't know you, I kind of know what you're talking about, but I don't. Like, how do I change that mindset to say, okay, I got to think about getting the $1,000, but I have to also think differently about money just in general, like when it comes to like either building a career or like an endeavor.
Yeah, so I think, truthfully, man, I think the internet has leveled the playing field. Like, I think the best university is YouTube University. I think it's better than all these other brand names, because you got to understand it's the education business. It's a business. I know me and Darnell talk about this a lot. So it's like, to any kid who's coming up, I think what Vlad is saying is obviously extremely important. Like, manual skills, trades are like super important, because if I can build a chair, I'm always going to be able to build a chair. You know what I mean? Like, no matter what. And people are always going to need to sit down. So it's like those type of skills matter. But I think like people don't talk enough about, okay, once you get the $1,000, then what happens next? So just understanding what money is, how it grows, and using the resources you have. Like if a kid was listening, it's like YouTube, look up words like inflation, look up assets, look up liabilities, take one of these classes, like, you know, talk to Mike, you know, like he'll be able to school you on, you know, what certain, you know, vocabulary words mean. And yeah, YouTube is really, I think YouTube is and Google, if you know how to research, those two are like more important tools in our modern day, you know, time than, you know, your traditional Harvards or Yale, in my opinion.
From both listening to Vlad and Antz, I think what we're hearing is that you have to be strategic. Everybody's gonna tell you, oh, you know, don't do it for the money. You have to have passion and all that stuff, but it's not mutually exclusive. You have to think about, you know, how are you gonna get the $1,000? So you have to look at things objectively and remove emotions from it. I think there's a difference between like career, what you do, you know, that earns you, and a hobby, for example. Like you're not gonna pursue your hobby for the rest of your life and expect, you know, it's gonna be harder to get that 1,000 because unless you're, you know, super talented at that hobby that, you know, people actually see value in that and are willing to pay for that. And so I think you have to be strategic. Like for me, like going into grad school, I had that conversation with Antz a lot. I realized like I was being recruited. I wanted the education, but the school is also a business. So they want me to pay so that I obtain that education, get the loan, and then, you know, work my butt off to pay off that loan. So when I realized that they were placing a value on me, so I could negotiate with them. So I engaged in a negotiation battle with them for over a month until they brought down the cost of the school to a point where I thought was fair. And then I accepted that offer. So I think you just have to be strategic.
So I'm a person who wanted to pursue my passion, what I thought was my passion at the time.
What was the passion?
I wanted to help young people in school without being a teacher. I thought I wanted to be a teacher at first, but I quickly learned I didn't want to, and I couldn't. So I just realized I really wanted to make sure that I worked with young people in schools. So that's what made me choose the social work route. But very early on, everyone was like, "You're not going to make money. You're not going to make money." And up until grad school, that was a thing. Like everybody just knew that, you know, you're gonna have a lot of debt and you're not gonna make a lot of money right away, or ever. So you just gotta be okay with that because you're helping people get their lives together, which was cool. But I knew that I wanted to work in a school. I knew that I wanted to work in a high school. So I applied straight out of grad school to a whole bunch of high schools. And by God's grace, I was granted one, and I was earning, like, my first year, I was earning like $20,000 to $30,000 more than the people I graduated with, because it's a city job. So, like, I've been at that job for 7 years now. Every year, like, I don't know. So my starting salary is obviously different than what it is now, but I guess I say all that to say, like, I don't know that I love social work anymore, but my salary is necessary. Like, my salary helps sustain this family along with Wilfred's, right? So if I'm being strategic, I have to think about, okay, my family, you know, I bring home this much and this is how it helps my family. I can't just quit nowadays. I even tried to quit, and my boss asked me the realest question. I told my boss, I was like, I'm not coming back here next year. I don't want to do this. And he goes, can you afford to quit? And I was like, what? He was like, no, I just...
You should have called Antz right there. That should have been the sign.
It was. He was like, oh, I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, I don't know, just your lifestyle. Like, can you realistically afford to quit? And I was like, oh, I have bills. Oh, I'm married. Oh, I kind of do make more than I would out there in the, private sector or any other like area of my job. Okay, so I got to be here for a little while. And then thinking more about like retirement and, all the benefits that I do get as a city employee. Now I'm being more strategic and thinking like, okay, if I put in 10 years, then my pension, when it's time to retire, I get my full pension amount, right? Because I'll be vested at that point. And my health insurance, is a slightly better package as a city employee. But I don't know, I'm just strategizing more, and now I can game plan around, okay, we survive off of this amount of money. If you leave BPS, you need to guarantee that you're at least gonna have this amount of money, so that your family, your lifestyle won't be impacted too much. But I have a game plan. I'm working on something. Now, man, I'm not a CEO like Antz or a CFO like Darnell, but I'm working on something, I would say the number one thing to address is that mindset piece that Antz was talking about, and that you were referencing earlier too, Mike. Like, it's okay to not, I don't know, especially in the world of Instagram or social media in general, we all want the flashy car, we all want the big house, we all want to travel the world 10 times and be somebody's travel or couple goals. I get that. But it's okay to also it's also okay to not have the flashy house. It's also okay to not have the flashy car. It's also okay to go to Florida on vacation. Like, Florida's nice too, y'all. California's nice. Shout out to Florida, right? So I would tell that person, if you're going into the field of social work, if you're going into or a low paying career, adjust your mindset so that your mindset fits your paycheck. Because I think a lot of people,
I like that line.
Nice. I think a lot of people used to tell me, as long as you love what you do, you'll make money doing it. And that might be true, right? But I think that also comes at an expense, because for me, someone like me, for me to make a lot of money in whatever I'm doing, I have to work long hours. I probably have to work multiple jobs. And that comes at what about my social life? What about vacation time? You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to kill myself trying to make $1. But if I'm okay with how much money I make, and I fit my mindset to that, then whatever I make will be enough. If you look at our parents weren't making 6 figures. Our parents weren't making, a whole boatload of money, but they were happy. And they did mad things. My parents bought houses. My parents bought cars. My parents put us in school, and everything we needed, I could call my mom or my dad and ask them for help. So you kind of have to, like, or people say it this way too, act your wage, not your suicide, something like that.
Oh, I've heard, like actor. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, like you kind of just have to, being okay with your wage means not just accepting the fact that you're going to make, again, a starting out social worker would probably make like 35 to 45 a year. It means more than just being like, okay, I'm just going to make 35 to 45, and one day I'll make more money, or da, da, da. It's like, no, okay, what can I do within that salary? How can I save? How can I grow money? How can I do all the things that need to get done so that I can have a well-balanced life?
So basically what I just heard you say is, like, don't just look at $40,000 and say, oh, that's 40K. Like, you got to say, what does 40K mean? And that's the second step that a lot of us don't do with life. Because then when you say what it means, correct me if I'm wrong, you say, hey, what does 40K mean? Do I like what that means? Right. All right. And then if I don't like what that means, then I got to figure out, I got to make some decisions, right?
Exactly.
Wow.
Because at that year that I I was probably making like 60 or 70K. I don't know.
Which is a lot.
Yeah, for a social worker in Massachusetts, that's pretty high. And so if I left that job, that's basically what my boss was asking me, right? Like if I left this job for another job where I would be making like probably max 50K, do I like what that means? Like do I like what that means? And he knew like that I had a car note at the time, like things like that. So it was like he was asking me like, you can leave this job, fine, but do you like what it means to be out there and not making this money? And I was like, oh no, I don't like that.
I think so. You know, one of the things too, let me just pivot real quick, right? I want we haven't really talked about this, but I wanted you to talk about, because people choose jobs, but people don't choose like starting a business, right? And we're gonna kind of land the plane in a bit here, but like to piggyback off what Babette said in terms of choosing like what her lifestyle means, like I know we were talking about this. You went from like you were working for somebody, and then you decided, no, I want to work for myself. How did you do that, knowing that you would still like what that meant, right? Because you're not talking about like what I'm going to get paid. You have to actually go and generate income yourself, right? So for the entrepreneurs out there, like how do you even think through that?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So there's like a saying that says like, you don't choose your career chooses you. I don't know if you guys heard that before. So with me, so yeah, I was on the W2 route for sure. And just like everybody, I had bills, I had student loans. And I set out in my, like, I knew that, I think like everybody, like right now there's like a craze that says everybody's an entrepreneur, start your own business, but I don't think everybody is. And it's not like, that's okay. We need different, type of people to make the economy work, to make the war work. And that's just normal. That's just for me, I think early on, I knew that like I really was an entrepreneur. Like I really like had that type of ambition and drive to kind of do my own thing. So, but I had, like, to Babette's point, I had like a real specific game plan, because like what her boss said to her is like, can you really afford to leave right now? Can you afford to quit? I'm the type of guy, I'll play those kind of conversations in my mind before anybody even says them to me. So mathematically, I figured out how much money I had to, pay off all my debt. Like before I quit, I made sure everything was at zero. So, because I think what money really does more than anything is gives you flexibility, like autonomy, to be able to say, yeah, I mean, actually, I can do this, or I don't have to do that, or you can kind of be more selective in what you want to do. So what drove me to that was early on, while I was still working the W2 route, I bought an investment property, and that kind of,
Can you tell me how early on? Because I think it was pretty early.
And it wasn't that early. I was what, 25, I think. Yeah, 20. Yeah, I think I was 25. Or
how old are you?
Was that?
How old are you?
Oh no, we ain't gonna go to my age. This ain't about that. Age.
Mom, but yo, at 25, you bought an investment property though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I mean, that's big.
That's so normal,
Yeah, I know, right? That's why he's the CEO.
Nah. So.
Oh yeah. Point. Just when you talk about W2, just make sure.
I'm sorry. No, it's a great. So to clarify, when I say W2, that's more like the labor market. So traditional 9 to 5. You go to work, you clock in, and you come home. And then when I talk about like, entrepreneur route, or like the capital route, it's like do your own business. You're self-employed. You're kind of doing, like you get it like a 1099. You're not like clocking into work every day. You kind of run your own kind of business. So to go back to the story, so when I did that, I started to, because I actually graduated with a degree in biology. So you can bring it back, man. I've been through all these different paths. When I was in like elementary school, so it's funny when we're talking about like passion versus like, I think there's a couple of things. It's like passion. There's like, what are you actually good at, and kind of trying to, and being a realist and trying to merge the two together. I don't think you necessarily have to, you could try to bring them both together. So I liked science growing up. All my grades were like probably the best in like science. I don't think I ever really took any business or finance courses, like especially like early, like high school. I don't think nobody teaches you. I know in my high school and middle school and stuff, I never learned anything about that. And I'm going to change that in my family. We're breaking some curses. But so I thought I wanted to be, I didn't think I wanted to be a doctor. Seth once told me I wanted to be a doctor. So I know you guys who are watching are going to be able to relate to this. I'm sure you guys have that. And obviously it was from a good place. It was, from a caring place, but that wasn't really necessarily what I wanted to do or was good at. But basically I followed orders. I obeyed, which is good. Kids always obey. Well, yeah. So basically I, when it was time to go to choose a college, like a major, I just picked biology because I didn't really understand. I was 17. I just thought, okay, this is the only way to be a physician, be a doctor. So this is what I'm going to do. And I'm good enough at things where even if I don't like it, I can kind of breeze through, which I think a lot of us are. You can just kind of make it, but it's not like there's any passion to do, fantastic work. You just trying to, get by. But along those, like after graduation, I started meeting this kid I went to high school with, and like other guys who were really, into like real estate, and they kind of sparked my interest. This one kid in particular, he was talking about like investment properties when we were like, I think like 22, 21. So that's why a format like this is really good. So he's kind of the one putting these type of things in my mind, like, oh, this is even something that, people do, like, and he's only a year older than me. So, having conversations with him, and, sometimes you kind of look at a guy and you're like, this guy's not brighter than me, though. You just got to look at it. You're like, if he can do it, I should be able to do it, which this should tell you all, I'm not brighter than you guys. Anybody can do these type of things, so it's like, sticking with him, seeing some of the stuff he did kind of propelled me to, pretty much look at what he was doing and kind of follow him. And then after I bought that, I was like, I really liked it. Like, whereas he would complain about certain things, like with his interaction with, the tenants or collection, different ways that, you have to kind of conduct a business, because it's still a business, but I would actually not mind doing it, and I would learn from it. So that kind of, changed my whole mindset. And from that point on, I kind of knew like, okay, I'm going to do what I need to do right now, but at some point, and hopefully at some point soon, I'm not going to be in this, again, W-2 lane. And that's why I started company. What's that?
Darnell is eating up the chat right now. So Darnell,
oh,
that is true, man.
Yeah, there's definitely a verse that I say, but it doesn't. I don't know if it relates right now, so we'll hold it off. It'll come up. It'll come up though. Trust.
It'll definitely come up, man.
I wish I did. Ellie's been trying to tell me my whole life, Elizabeth forfait économie. And I never understood what that meant until now. But I would say my money mentors, you're looking at them. I aspire, I really do value the advice or the wisdom that I get from you three, and then my brother Leslie is another person. I think the knowledge that I've gained, just either seeing y'all go through life, talk about your own experiences, and then like the advice that you've given me personally, like that's changed my whole mindset. was not born this way. I wish I was.
Okay, but let me push back though, right? So for you to even reach out or pay attention, something had to happen, or like, you know what I mean? Like the mindset that says, hey, let me talk to like a Darnell, or let me pay attention to Antz. Like, what brings that about?
If I'm gonna be 100% honest, the year we got married, so I got married in 2016. We had a like, I think I want to say like $7,000 in credit card debt. We had $7,000 in credit card debt, and we were just staying afloat. If there was any emergency, we would like drown. So I think December of that year, December or January of the following year, we paid off the credit card. We had no debt, and our credit scores were in the high sevens, right? 700s. And then like little by little, it just started to go back down again. Like we just had a really bad relationship with money and bills and responsibilities. But I think like, I want to say by the summer of that year, when I realized that things were like for real out of hand again, I looked at Wilfred and I was like, I don't want to have this feeling anymore. I don't want to have this feeling that I need to constantly check my bank account, that I need to map out when payday is or whatever have you. Like now I know when payday is, but it doesn't necessarily phase me, right? Like I just do it because I follow this budget template and she has us write it down. But like I told him I don't want to feel this feeling again. It doesn't feel good. We need to make changes. So that's what kind of kicked it off. Like the enormous amount of debt, I can't even say living paycheck to paycheck, because we would be barely making it to the next paycheck. So that's what changed.
Antz always talks about how, your network is your net worth. I never had like a singular mentor. And also being the youngest in my family, like my sister's 7 years older than me, and I saw how they went through life, and I learned through them. And like I also have developed a great friendship with my mom, and my mom is an accountant, and she would just and I saw when she was doing the budget for the house, at like 13 years old, she told me how much money she made. She told me how much money my dad brought in, and she told me the expenses for the house, and she wrote them down. And that was very meaningful to me. And so when it came time for me to come here in 2013, I remember I had a conversation with my dad as he was dropping me off at the airport. He said, you can either succeed or you can fail. If you fail, that's on us. If you succeed, that's on you. And I just took that to heart. And he said, look at your brothers, look at your sister. You want to have an entourage of people who are pushing you forward. And so when I came here, like the first thing I did was find other like-minded people who were trying to succeed, who had like, who are doing positive things and not just like the regular college kid who's just partying on the weekends. And so those were my mentors. And then at the church, finding guys like yourself and Antz, I think propelled that so that I could continue. And so I thank God for placing all these people in my life at the right moment so I could be the man that I am today. And also now I can look back and help like younger kids coming up and say, you need to find somebody that's in this area, look up to them, see what they do, and link up with them.
Dope. Yeah, I mean, I think Darnell, I mean, I definitely have said this. I don't even know if I've told you straight up. I think one of the first things I noticed coming to the church was like your family. I could just tell, like by just talking to you or Vlad or the way you guys talked about like your other siblings, that you definitely had like this good blood family like network, right? That probably played a big role in like making you who you are today. So yeah, it's definitely important, just like getting around people that you feel like it helped propel you for sure. So I know we're a little bit over time, so I'm just gonna land the plane real quick, right? One of the questions I think, and we may have asked this or answered this in some way or fashion, but if you guys were to just leave somebody with just like, okay, some last words, right? Like think of maybe like the young person that's in college or someone that maybe is going to grad school and thinking about vocation, family, whatever the case is. Like what's like one thing you would leave them with and one piece of advice that you would want them to never forget? Now anybody can start.
Not one person is righteous. No, not one.
I knew that was coming.
That was a layup. No, but
Praise God, praise God.
Right. Praise the Lord for real.
Gospel. This must be a little bit, man.
But I would say probably think about everything in some way, shape, or form, whether it's career or whatever is a business. I think just, I'm not saying like it's all about money. That's definitely not what I'm saying. But the last word would be like, whatever you're like looking at, assessing, trying to make a decision. If you're investing, whether it's your time, whether it's money, whether it's, in America, everything is in some way, shape, or form, some sort of business. So try to assess things like, okay, let me make not just a decision about passion or what somebody's telling me or whatever, but like this, let me look at this as a business. Because I'm investing something, whether it's my time or money or whatever. So that's what I would say.
I can go next. I would say definitely don't isolate yourself. We tend to try to figure things out on our own, which could be great, but we're meant to live in community. And some chances are somebody else has probably gone through what you're going through in some way, shape, or form that they could give you advice. And then be active. If you have a plan, you set it out, like you have a budget, then be intentional about it. Even in Proverbs, it says, seek wisdom, get knowledge. You have to be a doer. And so don't isolate yourself and be active, be proactive.
I kind of have two, because I just want to add like a quick thing to Darnell's, is like, don't isolate yourself, especially from your Christian community, from the Christian community. It is in this Christian community that I found wise individuals to help us, stay on the straight and narrow, and to help remind me that God calls us to be good stewards of our money, but of everything, honestly. But my own personal one would be, you don't need it. Remember that you don't need it. Whatever you think, the clothes you think you need, the shoes you think you need, the car you think you need, living on campus, y'all, I went into debt to live on campus, okay? I didn't need it. I lived in Boston and I think I paid $13K just to live on campus for 1 year. I didn't need it. So if whatever you think you need right now to impress your friends, to impress that boy or girl, just, you don't need it yet. You don't. Just prioritize being a good steward and honoring God, honestly.
One other thing I would say is, you don't have to live like everyone. I do realize we live in the United States where there is a ton of stuff. Babbitt talks about your lifestyle and whatnot. I'd say if you look at your life, especially if you're younger, a lot of the things you think you need, you don't need. No one has time to watch every show on Hulu, Netflix, and blah, 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 that Spotify thing you have. Like, you add up those bills, those are a lot of expenses. And what you find, there's this book called The Millionaire Mindset. What you find is that the people who are, you see the glamorous rich people on TV, but there are a lot of millionaires out there who are not glamorous. There's a couple things that they have in common. They tend to own their things outright. They tend to minimize their bills, invest wisely, let the magic of compound interest do the work for them. Because you're not trying to get rich tomorrow. You're trying to get rich. You can, if you're on, so you'll get rich in one day. But some of us are going to get rich over time, right? Time's going to get you there. And so I found like secretaries, administrative assistants, or people who are not doing a lot, like janitors, whatever it is, the job you're doing. It doesn't matter if I make $1 million a year and you make $10,000 a year. If I'm spending $999,000 a year, you are a lot richer than I am. So one of the best ways to maximize whatever it is you do is ruthlessly cut down on the stuff that you don't need to do. Like if you're 20 years old and you haven't been to Thailand or a trip around the world, that's okay. Most 20-year-olds in the world are not taking trips around the world. You have time to travel. Now is the time to start thinking about saving and start thinking about the things Antz is talking about, because that 20, if you had $1,000 at $20 and you put it in the right account, and I'll let these folks tell you what that account is. If you track it over time, by the time you're 50, and if you keep, say, like putting $1,000 in it like every other year, it will be a whole boat mess of money versus you saying, I'm going to spend I'm young, I've got to travel, I've got to do this. I'm going to spend like the first 15 years of my life doing that, and then think about like saving and settling down when I'm 45. You're starting too late. It's not impossible, but you're starting too late. So that would be my parting words. This is not rocket science. It's really easy to do. It just requires a lot of discipline and thinking, not like everybody else.